Thanks for checking out Scotty's Hobbies. Today we're installing a pump on this here 4L60E transmission. Getting this started real fast like most of my straight to the point videos. This is a stud that I use to align the pump while I install it. I'm going to show you how I make these fancy studs real fast. And if you'd like to purchase some, go ahead and look for a link in the description below. But here's the bolt I got. It's a 8mm by 125 thread. Get about 3 to 4 inch bolt and just cut the head off. Doesn't take long. Should slow that down a little. It looks kind of fancy. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share while you're watching. This bolt head's going to come right off. I cut off 3 of them, or I make 3 of these studs when I install the transmissions. Sorry, the pumps into the transmission. This is the bushing between your drum and the pump. You can see the one on the right is really, really thin. It's a little bit darker. That one's really, really thin, so you do get a little bit of play out of the transmission using your factory one. The one on the left is a little bit thicker, and it's used to absorb up some of that in play so that the pump doesn't, so that the drum doesn't push up against the pump too much, or you get any vibration right there. There is a link in the description to purchase one of those as well. Make sure you click on that and buy it. And I just get as many views or angles as I could of that because I think this is one big upgrade that you could do for a really, really cheap cost. So don't miss this if you don't have to. Also, when you install a pump, make sure you get a pump seal kit like this one. Same thing, link in the description below to purchase one. This kit comes with all your O-rings, your seals, the O-rings for the bolts. It comes with everything. Makes it much easier for you, much cheaper than going down to your local auto parts store. Here I'm installing the last stud that I made. So it's an alignment stud. Now I'm going to take the seal or the gasket out of the package. Gently place the gasket over the studs. These alignment studs don't just keep the pump aligned, but also keep this gasket aligned too. It just makes everything so much easier by just adding this little step of making the studs and using them. I put my hands on like this too. Just showing you a little comparison of how thick this aftermarket one is to absorb that spacing. You use the grease, the assembly grease, to hold the bushing on. Now the 2 nylon rings on the stator right here need to be shrunk to be able to push it into your drum. So what I do is I put zip ties on it like this. I'll put them pretty tight on, come back like a half an hour later, try to get 1 or 2 more clicks out of it, come back about a half an hour or so later, and they are usually shrunk to the size of the stator, so they'll slide right into your pump. Sorry, slide into the drum. Be very careful and cut the zip tie off, not to touch those rings, or to drop it in the transmission too. Now with those rings shrunken down a little, make sure your pump is aligned correctly. Make sure that the filter suction is down on the bottom of the transmission. But same thing with these alignment studs. It helps you get everything lined up perfectly the first time, so you don't have to put it in, pull it out. Never good to do that. I was going to drop them in, but I figured I should push it down a little more. With the hammer, gently tapping it. You don't want to slam it down or pound it really hard because you can damage this pump. So I'm gently using a rubber mallet to push down on the pump. You can see you got it sunken down enough to get all the bolts in, thread them in at least 5 threads, I believe. Going to tighten these up by hand. You can see the pump now sinking down into the transmission. Again, make sure you subscribe while you're watching along. These bolts that fasten the pump to the transmission case really need to be torqued down properly. They're 13 millimeter bolt heads. I would recommend using a 6-point socket. On these bolts too, on the bottom side of the bolt, there's O-rings. Somehow in the video, in the process of building it, I didn't make a video of installing those O-rings on these, but they do have the O-rings on the bolts, and that did come in the kit. Make sure you look in the description for a link to buy that filter kit, the seal kit. Hand tighten them down again, and you can see I'm always going in a star pattern. I'm never going in a circle pattern. That's to hopefully get the pump to lay flat. Got everything nice and snugged up, not too tight. We're going to torque these down shortly. So I'm just going to go around and just make sure they're snugged up. I'm not putting more force on it to get it cockeyed. The pump cockeyed. Looks like everything seems to be pretty tight. Even if you need a pump, make sure you look in the description below to buy a pump too. All right. That one got a little oomph. See, we're setting the torque wrench to 20 pounds. The torque specification on these 13 millimeter bolt heads from pump to case is 19 to 24 foot-pounds. When I use the torque wrench and tighten these down, I make sure I get 3 clicks out of the torque wrench before I move on to the next. I'll go around in a star pattern twice to make sure that they're all properly torqued to specification. Don't want to leave any of them loose to back off. That would just cause a lot more work later. You can see that the pump is easy for me to access like this on this wooden stand that I made. I will be making a video very shortly. Here's my second pass. But I'll be making a video very shortly of how I simply made this pump stand out of a piece of wood and put channels in the wood too, so that I didn't make a big old mess on the floor when the transmission fluid drained out. It actually got caught on the stand and drained into my bucket, which is pretty cool. So make sure you check out that too. Like I said, just properly torque everything down. You don't want to leave anything too loose or make anything too tight. Make sure you get factory specifications on everything when you do this very simple job, just time consuming. Like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next, hopefully helpful video.